Russ Rogers here from the 17 Law Studio, and today we're going to talk about how to put the fun and the excitement back in your marriage. Whether you're recently married, have kids, don't have children, whether you're 25 or 55, I can help you. It doesn't matter if you have small kids in the house, if you're empty nesters. Today, I'm going to help because it's so easy to get into that rut where you're just barely existing throughout the week. Where you try to get through each day, and before you know it, 6 months has passed. Well, today we're going to put the train back on the tracks. And I can tell you without any reservation whatsoever that my wife and I have more fun now than ever. We have more dates and more fun in our life than we did when we first got married. There's not a week that goes by where we don't have at least one date night. We had to learn some things the hard way, but for the last many years, romance and excitement has been a constant in our lives. And today, we're going to talk about how to get your marriage back on track and get you dating again. Okay, fun and excitement in your marriage. You may be thinking, there's no way. I thought that was the definition of no fun. Marriage. Well, you might be right, but I hope not. I think this is huge in marriage. It drives me crazy when I go to a restaurant and see couples sitting at a table just staring at their phones, the walls or whatever, and they're not actually even talking to each other. I can't stand it when I hear couples tell me their life is pretty much go to work, come home, eat dinner, watch TV, and go to bed, and do it again the next day. People just settle into life, and I call that a rut. I think it's such a big deal that I wrote an entire chapter on this in one of my books, The 17 Laws of Marriage. This chapter is literally called The Law of the Rut. We make dating and romance a big part of our life. And now, as our kids have been growing up, getting married, moving out, and moving away, we've been brainstorming what Tracy and I could do for fun together. I came up with what I thought a scathingly brilliant idea. What I didn't want to do is grow into the habit of coming home, watching TV, going to bed. We've never really been TV watchers anyway, but I didn't want to get into that rut with our marriage, so I was trying to be proactive. My idea was, if you can believe this, was to buy a tandem bike. You know, one of those bikes where two people ride and they pedal together. So when I presented this idea to Tracy, she thought I was kidding and got a big chuckle out of it, of course. I've got pretty thick skin, so I reminded her, how much fun we'd had when we rented them on vacations and all that, and she started coming around to the idea. But what Tracy didn't know was that I had already given it a lot of thought and already gone overboard on research to find the perfect bike. And consistent with how my research usually pans out, none of it came in handy, but we bought a tandem bike that day anyway. My goal was to find something fun that we could do together and something that wasn't typical. And this bike has worked because I'm happy to report that we have enjoyed quite a few miles on our new bike. And if it's nice outside, the idea of riding a bike comes into the conversation, and a lot of times we'll load it up and head out. And I can assure you that if you are on a tandem bike, you are not in a rut. So when Tracy and I started dating, I had a four-wheeler. And for years, we would go four-wheeling. And honestly, if I had a place to go now, I would probably still have one, and we would probably go four-wheeling. No kidding. About 3 years ago or so, we rounded up some four-wheelers, and we had a four-wheeling weekend. Yep, riding up and down hills, going through the mud, ponds, streams. So we had so much mud over us you wouldn't even recognize us. And we're actually talking about doing it again this coming summer. So here's the thing. You have to make the effort. You will have to get out of your comfort zone. You want your comfort zone, or if you want to get out of your comfort zone, get a tandem bike. That will do it. Everywhere we go, we turn heads when we're riding our tandem bike because we're typically the only ones. We went four-wheeling, and then we pulled up to the hotel covered in mud, head to toe. Well, that's pretty much out of anyone's comfort zone, but worth it. It will be maybe a little weird at first, and one of you may not like it at first, but hey, it's okay to do fun things. So in a minute, I want to talk about the enemy of romance and the enemy of fun in your marriage. I want to share some things that will keep you from doing some of the things I'm talking about. There are several things in your life that will keep fun and romance out of your marriage. But for now, I want to talk to you about some examples of some fun things you can do. So let's talk about date night. You must have a date night every week, at least every week. No excuses. You can do it more than once a week, but at least every week. Okay, I get it. You may not have time or the money, but I don't believe you. You do have the time and you do have the money because it doesn't have to take that long for a date and it doesn't have to cost anything. More times than not, my date night with Tracy is at home and the kids aren't home. There's no extra cost and the kids enjoy being with their friends. So some of our date nights are all-nighters and sometimes they are 2 or 3 hours. And no matter, it's super rare that we don't have a date night unless I'm traveling or I'm not here. That's the only time we don't have a date night. What really happens is that couples come home from work, they eat dinner, they do whatever they do, watch TV and whatever it is they do, and then they blink and 5 years have passed. And you're wondering, where did the time go? You may think less of me, but I've never seen Survivor. I've never seen Dancing with the Stars, and I'm not against those shows, but coming home, dinner, TV, and then bed is not the life we've chosen. We focused on our marriage. We decided long ago that TV would not be the center of our life. We do have our favorite shows, but those are later at night and when there's nothing else going on. I have not turned on a TV in a hotel room in years. And if you're glued to your TV every day, maybe I suggest that you start your day with, let's just say, 1 day a week that you don't turn it on. And if your TV is your iPad or your iPhone, then maybe I suggest that you choose at least 1 day a week, or then 2, then 3, that you don't watch stuff on your phone or iPad or whatever it is you watch it on. Another suggestion is to do what we do at our house. We don't have an actual rule, but we do this. We don't typically turn on the TV show anything until after 9 o'clock at night. There's different reasons for that, and it's not like we're being goofy about it. That's just kind of how it works out. And again, it's like I said, it's not a goofy rule that we created. That's the culture of our home. The TV isn't the center of our life. And again, that includes iPads and iPhones. Okay, some more ideas for fun and romance. Here is something Tracy and I did not too long ago. We found an open weekend on the calendar and decided to make it a date weekend. We decided that whatever we did, we couldn't go anywhere we've been in the last 5 years, and we couldn't eat dinner anywhere we've eaten in the past 5 years, unless we ate at home, obviously. Considering we live in a somewhat of a small town, we had to get our creative juices flowing. So that weekend turned into one of the most special weekends we've ever enjoyed. We found ourselves at the top of a mountain overlooking a valley that we had never seen before. We visited new places, found ourselves meeting some of the most interesting people. We ate at a restaurant we had never, ever, ever thought about, never even crossed our minds. Tracy and I so enjoyed this that we may do it again this next few weekends from now. And keep in mind, this was not an expensive weekend. We stayed home each night and sure used some gas in my truck and ate out 2 or 3 times, but nowhere fancy or stupid expensive. So I have some more examples, but let me share some hurdles to you that's going to keep you from doing this. When I say hurdles, what I really mean are excuses. Yeah, excuses. So I'm going to try to get rid of your excuses today. Number 1, your phone. You get this, so I really don't have to say it a lot, but chances are one of you is staring at your phone a lot. Set some standards. No phone at dinner, no phone when you get home until after 9 o'clock. Do something to address this. Just don't skim past this little bit I'm sharing with you and forget about it. Do something about that. Second, watching TV is a hurdle. I already spoke about this, but this is a huge hurdle to putting your marriage back into the fun and excitement category. Next, children can be a hurdle, or most of the time, an excuse. I don't mean this is in a bad way. I know you love your children, and I love mine. Most problems in a marriage could be on their way to amazing success if they truly grasp what I'm about to share with you. So when couples hear this, they scratch their heads and they start asking me about all the exceptions. And there are a few. There aren't any. There really aren't any exceptions. So here we go. Every couple needs to realize that the most important relationship you have on earth, outside of your relationship with God, is with your spouse. It's not with your children. It's not your parents. Your relationship with your children is important. Your relationship with your parents is important, but the most important relationship you have is with your spouse. I bring this up because when you make your children your most important relationship in your life, it's not healthy, and your relationship with your spouse begins to deteriorate. And the more you focus on the relationship other than your spouse, and in this case it's your children, then you will see your relationship with your spouse only get worse. Now stay with me. I am absolutely not saying your relationship with your children is not important. That would be silly. But here's how it works. Pay attention to me. The better the relationship you have with your spouse, the better the relationship you will have with your children. It does not work the other way around. I remember listening to Focus on the Family one time, and Dr. James Dobson, who's the founder of Focus on the Family, said the best thing you could give your children is a happy marriage. I thought, wow, that is huge. So here's an example of how a happy marriage is truly something children love to see. Okay. When the children were little, it was not practical to get out so much. Each night, Tracy would have what we would call couch night or couch time. Not couch night, but it was couch time. This is just where we would sit on the couch. It's not any more complicated than that. Just the two of us without children in the room, and we would just talk about whatever we wanted to talk about, each other's day or whatever it is we wanted to talk about. The children knew over time that this was a big deal. It was a big deal to us, so the kids knew not to interrupt. Sure, at first they would come in there, but Daddy, but Mommy, and of course we stopped that. And see, the security for the kids is knowing that Mom and Dad are okay. So in reality, they were comforted that we were chatting each night. They got so accustomed to our couch time that if we skipped a night, they would actually ask us if we were okay, if there was a problem going on. And so, and if you have super small children, you can do this after they go to bed. But I urge you to try to do this, even if it's only for 15 minutes. So again, the best gift you can give your children is not all the stuff you're doing or all the stuff you're giving them. It is a happy marriage. Well, if a happy marriage is that important to your children, then it should be that important to you. You can't say you don't have time for the most important thing you can do for your children. That wouldn't even make sense. So when I started this, we said some of your time would be a hurdle, but it's an excuse because this is what's most important. Okay, I realize I'm spending a lot of time on this, but this is what I see all the time. It is for this big reason why many of you don't have romance or fun in your marriage. Your focus is in the wrong area. Your focus on a daily basis is all about the children and not about each other. And if you have little ones, of course you have some obligations like keeping them alive. I get that. But as they get older and into basketball, football, ballet, cheerleading, dance, band, whatever it is you do, while it may seem like you're busier than ever, which makes it hard to focus on each other, well, it's actually easier. And if you have tiny babies running around and you're still breastfeeding, and well, that's a little harder, but it's doable because then you can get together when they go to bed. Hang with me. I'll give you lots of ideas how to make this happen with children in the house. And we've had 4 in our house, so I know about this stuff. Even if you have tiny babies, because at one point our kids were tiny babies, naturally. So here's the deal. If your spouse is the most important to you, it is the most important person to you, and your relationship with your spouse is your most important relationship, then you're going to do something about it. There would be evidence that your spouse is important because that you would see things played out showing that. For me, I have time to play golf when I want to play golf, but I don't really play that often. I I don't really want to. One, because I'm really not that good, and you know, if you're not good at golf, it's really no fun, and it's really not that important to me. I used to be pretty good, but I'm not anymore. And exercise is important to me. So I do find time to do that every day, no matter what. That means I may be up at 5 in the morning, going to the Y, or running somewhere after work, those sort of things. So I am doing that because that's important. Gardening is not important to me. We have a regional grocery store in our world here where I live, and it's called Food City. The day Food City goes out of business is the day I would consider planting a garden. Until then, it is not important to me. Not going to happen. Doing these podcasts and shows and planning them is important to me. It takes a super long time to plan these shows, and it takes a lot of effort. And I try to do this, and it makes sense to you. And I have to set up a studio and audio and video equipment, and then somebody's got to be there with me and test and record and help and make sure it all goes well and push the record buttons and all the sound work and get it to YouTube and Apple and Spotify and all these places. But that's a big deal because I want to help people, and because it's important to me, I do this. So what I'm saying is this: you will make time for what's important to you. If it's important to you to cultivate a happy marriage with romance and fun, then you'll take some of my ideas and run with them. Okay. I think you get the gist of all this, with the children as an excuse not to create some romance and the fun in your marriage. Not an excuse. Now on to some more reasons why you may not, and then I'll give you some more ideas. So here you go. Oftentimes, after work or all day with the children, couples are way too tired. I call this an excuse. Even if you are tired, make time for each other. You may be tired, but it's worth it. You were tired when you went to work, but you did it anyway because work's important. You were tired when you made dinner, but you did it because it's important. You got to feed your family, right? Your spouse is more important than letting tired be an excuse. So honestly, I want to address this a little more because I hear this a lot. So why are you tired? Many tell me they're tired because their children are driving them crazy. In the interest of time, I have more about this show and another show that I've addressed and about your children. And I've actually put a chapter in two of my books, the 17 Laws of Parenting and the 17 Laws of Marriage. And I can help you put the sanity back in your life with your children if they're driving you crazy. This is why you are tired. Then please search for my shows on discipline, and it will change your life. So many of you are tired because you're not healthy. This may be beyond something you can control. So for now, I'm just going to talk about the things you can control. If you're overweight and that's why you're tired, then do something about it. That's not fair to your spouse. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to your children. Remember, the most important thing to give your children is a happy marriage. And if you can't focus on that because of you're not healthy, do something about it. So today is actually a good day to do something about it. In that same vein of getting healthy, you may have to eat better. You may have to eat less. The next thing you can do is exercise. People tell me, oh, I'm too tired to exercise. Well, here's the good news. Exercise actually gives you more energy. I'm at the point in my life that when I don't exercise, I get tired. So even if you don't change your eating habits, get out there and get your heart rate up and get to moving, and you'll find that you actually feel better and have more energy. Here's another thing. Get off the sugar. Google it. Sugar is not good for you. It's terrible for you. Sugar is not your friend, and it will contribute to you being too tired. Part of the healthy part. Next, on being tired, could be some hormones or some vitamin deficiency. Depending on your family, age, and everything going on in your world, you may find that hormones are completely out of whack, and perhaps your iron or something like that is off the charts. Go see your doctor and see if this is you. It's worth it. Well, let me pause just a second. If the most important relationship you have on earth is with your spouse, wouldn't it make sense to do this? Wouldn't it make sense to find time to call the doctor and say, hey, I need to get a whole bunch of tests done and figure out why I am tired at 7 o'clock at night. Okay. I have a ton of friends who drink those energy drinks with a ton of caffeine in them. They do work when they're drinking them, but some tell me they crash when they get home and it affects their sleep. Hence, they are tired all the time, and so they keep drinking more energy drinks. Consider uh, an energy drink fast for a couple weeks. Maybe you could not have energy drinks for 2 weeks, see what happens. Obviously, you're going to have to deal with all the headaches. I used to have my caffeine in the afternoon. I used to love coffee at the end of the day. And one day I stopped having caffeine after lunch. And I actually have more energy. But that's just me. You may be different. And if I'm going to have an all-nighter or drive super late at night, yeah, I'll be the first one in line for a drink with a bunch of caffeine in it. That'll be me, but not as a way of life. All this, again, is showing you that if you are too tired for romance and fun, these may be some factors. And you may get your creative juices flowing and come up with some other ideas too. Now, let me give you some good ideas on how to get a date night and some fun things that you can do. If you have small children and you have some family members who can keep your children any length of time at all, utilize them. I know you have small children and you'll miss them, but again, your most important relationship is with your spouse. You'll need to invest in that and do that, and that means you need some uninterrupted time with your spouse. If you have no family, find a babysitter. If you have no money for a babysitter, swap out with some of your friends who have small children. You watch their children while they go on dates, and they can watch your children when you go on dates. And if it's important to you, you'll find someone. Otherwise, you'll just keep using it as an excuse. And if you can't find someone, have a date outside on the porch, in the yard, by candlelight. Keep the kids in the room as if they're small, or if they're small, let them go. Wait till they go to bed and do something like that. Set up a fancy looking dinner on the back deck. If you don't have a deck, heck, set it up in your bedroom and lock the door so nobody can interrupt you. If you can get out, here's some fun things. Tracy and I love trying new restaurants. Not necessarily fancy ones, but just something we've never been to. Sometimes we'll walk around town in an area where we've never ever seen before. And if the weather's super nasty out, then we'll drive around to some of these neighborhoods we've never seen. Now we're in an area where going on hikes is pretty easy for us to do. This is super fun. So anytime, if you live in a place you can go hiking, find a place you've never hiked and do that. And if you don't like hiking, find some flat places to go walking. We love campfires, so we just got a fire pit, and it just came in. So we're looking forward to setting that up as soon as we can agree where to put it. Here's something out of my comfort zone. When I'm there sometimes at home and Tracy's going to the grocery store, I'll go with her and try to make it fun. I make it fun by hanging out, trying to embarrass her by kissing her while we're in the aisles in the store, or when she sends me for a cantaloupe or something, I'll toss it from 30 yards across the store. And so far, she's a pretty good catch, but occasionally I've thrown a jug of orange juice and it splattered everywhere because I wasn't a very good throw. But hey, I try to make it fun. Here's something else you can do. Take a day trip. Like I mentioned before, Tracy and I have committed to a day trip to go somewhere we've never been before and that hadn't been in 5 years. We've done that, and it's so much fun. We just did it recently. One year, we took a dance class. I'm a horrible dancer. Tracy's a good dancer. So that was actually super fun. Sometimes we just go out for coffee or dessert. But that means she drinks the coffee and I get the dessert. That's how that usually works. Sometimes we cook together. This doesn't always work since I can't cook. So sometimes I'll just hang out in the kitchen and clean the pots and pans when Tracy's done with them. And either way, we're together. We've been to some wineries together, and that is so much fun to meet the owners and hear their stories. And a few times we've actually gone kayaking on the local river. I mean, I highly recommend this. Occasionally, we'll have a breakfast date. I could spend all day on this, but as you can see, there are a ton of things you can do if you just take the time to think about it. And here's an easy one. Go for a picnic. How about skiing, camping? Get outside with your metal detector if you have one. Have a water gun fight. Go to Dollywood or Six Flags, whatever's in your area. Rent a convertible for the day. Maybe a new food night at home where one of you picks the food, something you've never ever thought about making. Take a tour of a brewery or bakery or whatever it is you have wherever you live. Buy some Legos, put them together. Do a project around the house together. Go to an auction. That would be fun. Dress up like you're in the 30s, or make a time capsule. Play putt putt. Go to an escape room together. Now that's way out of my comfort zone. Go to a clean comedy show if there's such a thing where you live. Catch a sunset together, or this is crazy, catch a sunrise together. That would be fun. Okay, phew. There are a bunch of ideas here, and a lot of what I just shared is actually free. Not going to cost you any more than what you're going to spend anyway. So I'll stop there in hopes that this gets your creative juices flowing, so that your relationship with your spouse is so important that keeping your marriage alive is worth it and what's best for your entire family. I'm super hopeful this was helpful. And as you find your way to putting excitement back in your marriage, I hope you'll remember a lot of these things. And before I go, I have to share that you need to go to the17laws.com and check out my Marriage Commitment Challenge coin. Check it out, because you can imagine if 1 million couples reach in their pocket every day, and each time they do, they're thinking about their spouse. Wouldn't that be really cool? They're thinking about how they can make their family better. That would be awesome. So I want you to be a part of that. You can also pick up copies of my book, the book 17 Laws of Marriage, 17 Laws of Parenting, and be sure to sign up for my blog. And until then, remember, what I'm sharing with you isn't perfect. I think we do a pretty good job of helping families. We'll see you next time.